It's all good, Brad. So, where would you like to start today? We were kind of talking in the green room. Why don't you just line it up there and see how she goes?
Absolutely. Well, we got a lot of great feedback last time. Always leads to more questions, especially when you're just getting started with something. And I think, first and foremost, on everyone's mind right now is the transition of power going on and the fear of protests and violence with a lot of a lot of the Capitol buildings being locked down. One of the first challenges of prepping and having a plan is, how do you know what's really going on? How do you know what to prepare for? News reports, social media. How do you sort out the noise from the reality, and then how do you use that to potentially update your plan and your call to action?
The world right now, though, is terrified. And they're trying to think of every possible scenario that could happen. And, there is one camp that thinks they're putting too many soldiers on one battlefield. Can you describe that in a nicer way?
Well, so each state, it's up to them to prepare for whatever protests that they want or think might come. And we have over 20,000 National Guard troops around the Capitol and around the inauguration area. Plus, they're shutting down just a tremendous part of DC from any traffic. Is it too much? Well, if you're looking at something as a deterrent, saying this is a really bad time to host a riot or a protest, this definitely, I can't imagine personally, if I wanted to raise attention, deciding that this would be a good time or place to host it.
Yeah.
I'm based near Atlanta, and they were worried about protests all weekend long at the Capitol, and they had an amazing grand total of 2 people who showed up. So better safe than sorry, I guess.
Yes. Here's an angle that maybe some of the people at HAPS have thought about. We have one camp, I think, to think that everything's going to be fine. The world is going to, just evolve, and everyone's going to accept this, and everything's going to be rose-colored glasses from now until eternity, and we're all going to be peace-loving and visit my morning show and sing Kumbaya together. But you and I both know that this is just the beginning, no matter what. So we've got people saying, never give Donald Trump Twitter back, never give him Facebook back, because it was a platform for him to rally his supporters into doing things that were maybe not the best for the country. Am I saying that in a nice way?
Yes, you are. I think the hard part is the dangerous balance. On one end, would it potentially help heal the nation by not having a divisive, more self-focused voice calling more things into question and stirring up a lot of the stress and anxiety that already exists? The other is, who gets to decide which opinions get out there? There's a tremendous number of people with the exact opposite opinion. What happens one day if somebody here decides that you and I shouldn't have a voice? We shouldn't be able to talk about prepping or balance, and we get kicked off all of the platforms.
I love what you just said. I do. Balance. We're all about balance. One foot in front of the other.
Balance and positivity.
Yes. Balance in life. Yes. Okay, I don't know if to take that as positive or negative, but I'll take it as positive. I'll take that as a good.
Yeah, it's a tough precedent to say an individual is kicked off a platform forever. I'm watching certain content providers that they're getting kicked off their hosting companies. Their domain names are becoming delisted. They're getting kicked off of platforms, and not even violating terms of service or being divisive, but companies saying, well, maybe we just don't want to have anybody that has that type of opinion. And there way back when there's been a lot of psychology experiments. There was the brown eyes, blue eyes school experiment.
Yeah.
And what happens if it comes down to eye color? It's that slippery slope. Right now, if it doesn't affect our group, we're ignoring it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you aren't willing to fight for free speech and free press for the opinions that you hate from anyone that believes the opposite of you,
mm-hmm.
then why should you be allowed the same luxury to have your voice if you're denying them of theirs? I think we're in a very precarious time moving forward.
Anybody wants to ask questions, and thank you for saying hello. We do see you there. We're not snubbing you, but we're trying to stay on topic a little bit. We won't be taking any guests up this time, but maybe in the future when it gets more comfortable, we'll do that. And when Hans gets to know you better, we'll do that. But I know some of you, and I know some of you quite well, but I would love to hear what you're thinking about our privacy and how you're feeling currently with the situation as we speak. So I want to bring something up, and this is totally a different subject than what I'm like. It's over here, it's over there. Shiny ball. I was thinking about this, budgets for people who want to start prepping.
Yes.
What would be considered a good budget? My wife spent $3,000 in a month on what she thought was to save us.
Wow. If you've got the money to spend,
yes.
We're not earning a lot of interest in the bank at the moment. So, some things may be more liquid in a down economy. I would say a great budget, $1 million is a great start.
Yeah.
But for the rest of us, you don't have to spend a lot.
Right.
What I would do is start building a shopping list. And when you go to the store, buy 1 or 2 extra canned goods. Buy 1 or 2 extra packages of pasta, whatever it is you eat or like. If you're getting Band-Aids, get an extra package of Band-Aids, or add something to your first aid kit. Add a reliable flashlight and maybe some good batteries to go with it. So I would say if you can put 2 to 5%, maybe 10% of your shopping budget to add some of these items,
mm-hmm.
that's a great start. The big thing is building a list. And actually on my website, ekmanguides.com, one of the presentations I do is can the zombie apocalypse help you survive IT projects? But I also, with that, have a prepping list, a recommended prepping list for 3 days, 3 weeks, and 3 months, items that you might want to consider. I'm not sure how HAPs work, if there's a way to do file sharing tied to this recording, but I'm also happy if you message me
in the comments. In the comments, you can send links. And
Excellent.
The links, and if they're YouTube, you'll actually see the video as it's on. So the other thing is too, for the people that watch this replay, we would love for you to also go look at the business video we did last Sunday. And please put some comments there. And we want to get it. We're around just shy of 500 views. And for a business video, that is quite exceptional. I've been to many different sites where I love watching things about digital transformation and, cybersecurity, analytics, things like that. And they may get, if they're very lucky, 100, 200 views, sometimes 14, sometimes 4. And rarely do you get anything around 2, 3, 4, 500. And I want to get this video up around 1,000. I'm a little greedy, but I want people to know about the channel. I want you to go out there and tell people about the business part. Now, I have no worries about the prepper part. I think the prepper part is going to be fine. It's going to do well, especially now with the way the world is. I think more and more people are searching. A lot of people don't even know what a prepper is. Can you kind of break down what that terminology is, and I'm going to go get a coffee. I have incredible faith that you're going to be okay alone.
I will survive.
I think you will. I think I could come back a day later and go, I didn't know how to shut it off. Okay, it's all you, buddy.
Yep. So when we're talking about prepping, really, or being a prepper, we're just talking about somebody that is trying to be a little more aware, improving your situational awareness, having a plan for what to do when things don't go your way or things go bad, and from there, having the supplies that will help you get through or be more comfortable during an unforeseen or an undesired disaster. This could be a snowstorm or a blizzard that shuts down a city for a couple days, hurricanes. A lot of times it's natural disaster. But these days, and we saw this with the pandemic, it could also shut down grocery stores. We could have our supply chain disrupted. So do you have 3 days of food or water? Do you have a week or several weeks where you don't have to go to the store? And so Megan asks, what are your top 5 must-haves? I would say the core, number 1, food and water that you're willing to eat and drink. I hate drinking tap water. I'm just not a fan of water. It's bland, it's boring. So I always have drink packets, flavoring, or flavored water, Powerade, Gatorade, something like that on hand, because I know I'll drink it and I'll stay hydrated. So you need to plan to have about a gallon's worth of water or 2 liters of water or fluids per day to drink. For food, something that you like to eat. Yes, tuna lasts forever, but some people don't like tuna. So have something that you don't mind eating, have a little bit of a variety. I think number 3, a good flashlight or multiple flashlights and batteries. I mentioned on the last show, I switched over to lithium batteries because I was tired of the alkaline ones corroding and destroying everything I had. So I've made the extra investment to go that direction. So a good flashlight, candles, lanterns, something like that, lighting, warmth or shelter. So if you're staying in, then your house is probably fine. But if it's winter, can you stay warm if you don't have heat? If you have to bug out or if you have to leave your place, do you have something that you can shelter, a tarp, a tent, something, a car, something that you can help? And then the other one is a decent first aid kit. And first aid kits are really, there's 2 types. The first is your basic boo-boo kit. Tylenol, aspirin, antiseptic, antibiotics.
Can you break down boo-boo? Can you break down boo-boo for us?
Yes.
For those who don't know
the first boo derives from the Latin to stub one's toe and cause bleeding.
Yes.
I'm making that up.
Yes.
So cuts, scrapes, blisters. I hate blisters. So I always have really big Band-Aids in my kit so that I can slap them on my heel if I have to walk a lot. And that way my heel doesn't rub. And for me, that's just a luxury. So basically, your common first aid type equipment. You could buy a ready-made kit, or you can actually save a lot of money. Take their inventory list, buy those items separately, and you can probably make 2 to 3 kits for the same money. The second type of kit is really for kind of that stage 2 prepper. When you have your basic food, water, those items, and now you're starting to think about even worse things that could happen, and I might not be able to get to a doctor, or like now in Los Angeles County, there's a 2 to 3 hour wait to get into the ER. If you have a severe cut, what do you do? So that is when I recommend you look at an individual first aid kit. They're called IFAK, and basically it's designed to help with blood loss. So it's trauma dressings, it's bandages, it's a triangle sling in case you dislocate your shoulder. It might be something like Quick Clot or a individual tourniquet. And yes, contrary to what we were all taught growing up, tourniquets are absolutely safe to use when applied correctly. And I carry one in every one of my first aid kits. Yes.
We've got some activity here, especially from Megan, all the way from Australia. She's got some saucy comments here that I think we should address. Okay, she says, "Okay, food you like, good tip. I would rather go hungry than eat tin spaghetti." That was the first one. And the second one, what about, I think she's saying prescription meds. What do you suggest for that?
Absolutely. And that's really hard. So there's two aspects for prescription meds. One is getting access to them. So depending on where you live, your rules are going to change. But a lot of times a doctor will write you an emergency prescription.
Have you seen the latest comment there? Have you seen that? You got to read the latest one. This is right up your alley.
Xanax for the apocalypse. Yes. If you could get it, that would be good to have on hand as well. So a lot of times doctors will write you a 5-day emergency prescription. The challenge is, do you have to pay out of pocket or insurance? At least in the States, most insurance will let you renew early at 28 days for a 30-day prescription. That means every month you're building up a 2-day buffer. Under no circumstances, unless your doctor okays it, should you skip medicine trying to build that buffer. You may be able to buy an over-the-counter version that you could take at a higher dose to match the prescription, but again, it varies with medicine. And you may be able to get a prescription discount. There's GoodRx in the States. Other areas may have equivalent ones. Walgreens Pharmacy has one where you can basically they will cover the prescriptions that your health plan doesn't. So the next piece of that is make sure to label and understand the expiration date for your drugs. Yeah. And it's just like your canned goods. First in, first out. Some drugs become very weak and don't do anything. Insulin, when it goes bad, it just doesn't work. Other drugs become potent or toxic when they start to expire, meaning I used to be able to take 2 pills, and now a half pill could potentially put me in a coma. So you want to be very, very careful with any drugs to make sure you're staying within the recommended dosage, and you're careful about the expiration date. Xanax and tequila, I've not tried those together. Be very careful mixing drugs and alcohol.
Yes, but essential for a prepper, the tequila especially.
Yeah. I do like the idea of having, and I do personally have extra antibiotics. I was able to legally get some penicillin, which is a great general one for normal, but also know what to treat and how to treat. Like, they don't work on viruses. And then I have some limited backups for more potent antibiotics that could help. But again, probably download an app. There's a number of apps that, like the Physician's Desk Reference, American Red Cross. I apologize, most of my sources are US based, but
you're doing great, buddy. I do want to switch gears for a second. Hi, Laura. That's Laura, my daughter. How are you? We're talking about prepping here, Laura, and a little bit about, I think someone said zombies in there. Did you see that without even nudging? None of that. Yeah. So I was thinking about the elderly while you were talking, and the ones that hoard, and they have sometimes drugs from 3-4 years ago. And you're right. They could be so strong, they could end up killing them, thinking, oh, I'm saving money. I shouldn't waste.
Yes. And there's the danger of taking them expired, but there's also a real danger. These medicines are prescribed to us for a reason. Mm-hmm. Now, there's some like a muscle relaxer, for example. Those are take when you need them. If you're having cramps, if you're having problems, that's when you take it. Versus blood pressure or heart medication that you have to take as prescribed because it's helping keep you alive. So you really want to make sure you know about the drugs you're taking. Talk to your pharmacist, talk to your doctor. And then also you can go online and find information on how long do drugs really last. The expiration date on them is not necessarily the expiration of when they are not safe to take. Those are the expiration dates where the company doesn't want liability for anything that might happen should someone take it beyond that date.
We've never talked about weapons on the show, and we've never talked about things like, an axe or fighting stars or none of those things. But I know people are wondering what kind of things you should have, especially, we've never really talked about martial law, which scared the crap out of me the first time you talked about it with me. And I was thinking you were kind of being over the top, trying to rattle my cage and maybe freak me out a bit. And now I'm seeing the climate of the US and I'm thinking that may not be completely out of, what's the nice word here? Help me. Anybody?
Out of the realm of possibility?
Yes, there we go. There we go. I was going to say something else, but yeah.
Well, and it's not like something like that happens overnight. Look at Venezuela. Venezuela, over a period of 7 to 9 years, went from being a very happy, prosperous nation to now one that has been utterly destroyed by its current regime. The martial law, the crackdowns, all of that happen later on. It's a slippery slope. So let me draw one generality. The best things in prepping are tools and items that serve multiple purposes. So, for example, everyone in the zombie movies loves to see the shiny katana that the person is sharpening by the campfire every single night.
Yes.
It's just a sword, and it takes years to become proficient with that type of weapon. But if I have an axe, a hatchet, a fireman's tool that has a blade, I can use it to chop wood. I could use it to open doors, open cars, break windows. I could use it for defense. I can hammer things in. I can bend things with it if I need to. So having investing in tools that have multiple uses saves you money, and it saves you weight and space.
How about like a hacksaw, like for cutting wood and that type of thing?
Having a saw is great. It definitely will save a lot of time. There's some good pocket saws. The problem is, the better the tool, usually the more bulky or expensive it is. So my little folding saw is great for a backpack. I would never want to take down a tree with a folding saw. It would take me half a day.
Yes.
But am I really going to carry a chainsaw around with me? Only in the movies. Not in reality.
No.
If I have to leave in my car, a chainsaw will not be coming with me. So the number one lesson in defense comes from the old adage, I don't have to outrun the bear. I just have to outrun at least one other person. Your goal with
that
defense,
was lovely. That was warm and fuzzy, that one there. I don't think I used that for my morning show. Yes.
Maybe not.
No.
But our goal with defense is to not be a victim.
Yes.
Not to be able to survive an attack. So how do I do that? Learn as much as you can and practice situational awareness. Being aware of people and surroundings is the best deterrent you have. Keeping your house lights on or putting certain lights on timers. There's a great it's called Fake TV. Amazon and other places sell them. And it is little LED bulbs that randomly go off, and it makes it look like there's a TV running in a room, and it costs pennies per month to actually run. I keep our spotlights on at night. I keep our bushes trimmed down around the house. I keep the front porch lights on. All of these things make my house less likely to break in. Then the second level of deterrent, I have stickers that say alarm system and cameras in use. Doesn't matter if I have an alarm or cameras, I'm using them as a deterrent. So again, trying to make it so that you're not the victim, avoiding dangerous places late at night. And then if you do decide a tool, make sure it's a tool that you're getting training for, is legal in your area, and you are comfortable using if you have to.
Well said.
When I travel to Canada, not in the last year, but when I travel, I had to really read what the laws were. And oddly enough, when I'm in Toronto,
Yeah.
if I can legally carry a screwdriver around with me.
Yes.
If I get mugged, if someone tries to rob me and I
Yes.
stab someone with that screwdriver,
Yes.
I have committed aggravated assault with a weapon and I will
Yeah.
go to jail, even though it was self-defense.
Well,
So I can't carry a screwdriver, or I have to decide that risk is that's worth it.
you know what reminds me of the box cutter on the plane
Yes.
back in the day? Okay, so Megan again is causing disruption here. She says you need a good pair of running shoes. I say you need to be faster than your neighbor that's being chased by the bear.
Well, I can't run, so I just have to hopefully outthink or outplan them. I do have a pair of, I keep a jacket, a change of clothes, and a pair of old tennis shoes in my car just for emergency.
Yeah.
My preference, if I was going to have to walk somewhere, is I have a really good pair of hiking boots. For me, I can walk a lot longer and reduce the risk of a sprained ankle. I have my personal favorite, and you got to find what works for you. I love the Merrell Moab 2 waterproof boots. We hiked year before last all around the canyons of Western United States, and we were hiking 10, 12 hours a day, and my feet never got tired. And that's the first time I've really found a pair of shoes I loved. I don't do well in heels either.
We haven't. Good for you. Glad to know that. So mace, that kind of stuff. Are you for that?
Yes. I think pepper spray, so not mace, but pepper spray.
Yes.
Something that's 10 to 20% oleoresin capsicum, and I mispronounced that, but it's OC. It's basically what makes peppers really, really hot. It is effective on just about everybody, even if they're impaired on drugs.
How about a bear?
It will deter a bear. The problem with pocket spray is you're going to be way too close to the bear before you could use it. But it works on bears, and bear spray is basically OC spray, but they often sell it in giant canisters that can shoot 30 feet instead of 5 feet.
Yes.
So that's the big difference. I highly recommend everyone if they can do it legally, carry OC spray everywhere. I do because it's non-lethal.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great deterrent, even if you don't have to use it,
and
it will really work if you do have to use it. So those people who are really not sure that they want to pick a tool that might cause permanent injury, OC spray is great because it is safe to use, and that could be the difference between you hesitating or not. And if you do choose a more aggressive tool, or a more lethal tool, carrying OC spray in addition is great because then it gives you that intermediate option. That's why police carry OC spray. They don't want to have to go from hands-on to gun every time. They need something in between because they just once you go to that level, you just can't back off unless you can break away entirely and get away. But really know your laws.
Yeah, and we're going right back to Megan with the good pair of shoes, right?
Yes.
And some fast twitch muscles in your legs to get you to go, or adrenaline, one or the other.
Getting across the street fast enough could be the difference between you being the target and someone else. Having your cell phone up and ready to call for help, or going ahead and calling for help and then canceling if you need to. Those seconds matter. A lot of police response times or ambulance, unfortunately, is in the minutes or tens of minutes. And most encounters last less than a minute, sometimes or almost always less than 2 minutes. You're on your own. And I think that's why we've seen so many people, especially in the U.S. after the COVID shutdown and then the riots, have now realized that their personal protection is up to them. The police aren't going to be able to save them or respond fast enough if something bad really did happen.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to talk about besides, because we've just hit the 30-minute mark, which is so easy to do with you. We could talk about current things. I noticed today you are pixelating a little bit here and there. I don't know if that's because we're talking about some stuff. It may not come up as bad when we do the rebroadcast. I hear you perfectly, but I don't know. It could be the powers that be going, don't give them the information. You could be being jammed as we speak, right? We haven't even talked about that, where many threats now, they're worried about the internet just shutting down, like people having the power. Is that crazy, or is that?
It's not crazy, but the internet was created just like our bodies. If let's say, all right, no, I'm not going to use that example. It was designed like a neural network. If part of your brain gets damaged, your brain reroutes and you can still function.
Yes.
The internet designs the same way. So if you've seen massive internet block where we've had blackouts, or Amazon Web Services went down, a lot of services get disrupted, but email worked perfectly. Calls work perfectly. Traffic still routed around and worked.
Yes.
So I'm less worried about the internet. Power to your devices to get to these could be challenging.
You have to read this one comment. I'm sorry, you have to read it.
Signals and carrier pigeons.
Yes. That's exactly that's Helen, by the way, and that's Helen all the time. We should have Helen up sometime.
I love it. The challenge with carrier pigeons is they don't go where you want them to go. They only go home. So wherever you want to send messages to, you need to steal pigeons from that place and hope that they'll fly back home.
Very valid points. Yes. All based in reality.
Yep. I also recommend, and I'm going to pop it because it's right above my desk.
Yeah.
I actually have a series of Baofeng. It's BAOFENG. These are, make sure I'm in frame. These are very affordable two-way radios that have a 2-mile range on them.
Wow.
But they can also pick up emergency broadcast channels. Yes. So anything from weather to police to your country's emergency. And they're programmable where you can actually plug in a USB cable, download automatically the channels that are on there, and then you punch in the code for whatever channel you want to broadcast. A warning on these, depending on where you get them and how powerful they do require a license.
Okay.
If you start broadcasting on certain bands or at certain ranges. Some of them are simple where you just go and you fill out a questionnaire and you're good to go. Others actually have a really hard test to get certified with, they're called ham radio operators. Yeah. My view is I have a radio. If I ever need to use a channel that I'm not allowed to use because my life depends on it, I will pay the fine afterwards to be alive. So for me, having the radio isn't illegal. I will only broadcast if my life depended on it. Yes. So having these radios, and they run anywhere from $10 to $40 per unit, which is really affordable for something that's that powerful. And they're lightweight and rechargeable. So
perfect. Now I've heard of something that's called, it's something to do with like GPS. So if you were on the top of some summit and you were hurt, they can find you. I don't know exactly.
Yep. So those were developed for hikers and campers.
Yes.
And they're wonderful. There's a number. Basically what they are satellite communication devices. So they have built-in GPS that will be able to pinpoint where you are. And they do anything from just send an emergency alert that hails everybody and they send emergency services, but you can't communicate. Some of them allow two-way texting, and some of them are the same as satellite phones where you can actually make phone calls. The more you can do, the more time you spend on them, the more expensive they are. So when we're talking about satellite, you're looking at $5 a minute, potentially.
Right.
So
but if it saves your life, you'll gladly pay it.
And there's a number of, so look for backpacking resources are great for this type of information because backpackers basically live off.
You got to read the comments. I'm sorry. You just read the comments. They're ridiculous again.
Oh, for aliens? we can get into aliens too. I've been studying up a little on that too, and there are plans. The
Yeah.
sad news is we'll just knock that one out. If there was a real true zombie outbreak, if you survive, it'll be luck. Really, nobody's going to survive. The second is if aliens attacked, they would win, and then we would basically move underground and take a rebellion until we could outlast them, or until our diseases or resources or climate became inhospitable and their costs became too much. But aliens, if they can get to our planet and want to attack us, they will absolutely win.
Yes. Hello, Randy. It's nice to have you in the room. There you go. We also said, someone said, is it like a CB radio but more modern?
Yes, so, it is exactly it. So they're on Amazon. You can buy them direct. I just put it into the chat. It is this. So this is literally a pocket CB radio, but instead of turning the dial, you punch in a 3 or 4 digit code, and then the radio knows what channel to broadcast on. And then the batteries themselves are, you can buy extra batteries. You can buy ones that'll take other batteries. And I think I bought this set for like 40 or 50 bucks on sale, and they have channels. So the higher end ones have a longer range and can handle more channels and frequencies.
Okay, we're at 36 minutes. Anybody have some questions that they would like to ask about prepping? Do so soon.
Yep.
I have a couple myself that I'm really interested in knowing. So if you're a person that has the means and you could go up north, and let's say there was an outage, and let's say there was a shortage of food, would this be a wise decision if you were already set up? Let's say you already had like $3,000 worth of canned goods like my wife does, and you've got the rice and the beans and you've got all the stuff that you need. What are the benefits of just hunkering down at home, or say going way up north and being able to have resources maybe to fish? And
this is why you need to have a plan. And as a situation is developing, you need to review your plan and decide what parts of it to do. You are almost always better staying at home than trying to flee, because you're fleeing the known for the unknown. The exceptions are if you are in a hot spot or an area that is the only part that is under that disaster, then fleeing may be a better option. For example, a hurricane. You evacuate for a hurricane because the hurricane is only going to hit that area. If you get far enough inland, you're going to be fine. The other is duration. If I'm getting away from a hurricane, I have to last a couple days, maybe a couple weeks if the roads are shut down and I can't get back in. Surviving isn't that hard. I can stay in a hotel. I can stay with friends. There's a lot of options. If you're talking about really trying to flee, then think about everything you have at home that you're now trying to replace. That becomes really difficult. Mm-hmm. And it also depends on what are you fleeing. I live near Atlanta. Atlanta has the CDC. Let's assume that somehow, despite all their protections, all the nasty germs in the CDC got loose. If I haven't gotten out before that happens, it's too late. Right. And I have to get out past the spread. If it's something like
bring a shovel.
True. Well, you need a shovel for lots of reasons. If for nothing else, it becomes your new bathroom. And dig the hole first. Don't use your shovel after. Just don't. Common newbie mistake. So you've got to decide, what is it I'm escaping? If there's something where all of our logistics are shut down, then cities are going to run out of food and panicking and rioting and looting will start. Yeah, I want to get out of the cities early and I want to move to a more country area, but we're not an agricultural society anymore. So simply going into the country, you're going to starve to death. It takes a while to get crops. catching fish or a game enough to eat is not as easy as it looks in the movies. It would be very, very difficult to survive under those circumstances. That's why, for me, I have a location where I'm slowly stocking up to have 3 months. So if I had to go for 3 months, and I just can't walk or carry weight anymore, I'm just too old and broken down. So I've moved as much as I can to that secondary location and storage. So it's there. And all I have to do is get me, my family, the dogs out, and then just rely on whatever I have on the other side.
So, from what you were saying at the beginning, let's do kind of a quick recap.
Yep.
I know they're poking each other in the chat room there. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yep.
But most likely, you're not going to have access to the money if everything breaks down. So, if you have money in the bank, it might be wise to have some cash.
Keeping cash for short-term emergencies, absolutely.
Yes.
Even if there's a run or whatever, cash, or having items that here it goes back to the rule. An item that has multiple use is golden.
Mm-hmm.
Hard liquor.
Yes.
Hard liquor is amazing currency in a disaster.
Yes.
You can use it to disinfect wounds or sanitize items.
Yes.
And you can get drunk if things get bad. So hard liquor.
Someone said a sailboat is good. Well done, Randy.
Yes. And Randy's also right that, you should have money in the bank and you should have savings and a retirement account. This is just the physical object version of retirement planning. And if you have a big unexpected expense, you need to have something you can draw from. That's all we're talking about. And build slowly. Don't go crazy and buy the pre-made prepper kits.
Yeah.
They're nice, but they're just impractical. A backpack that's already full, where are you going to put your clothes and your toothbrush?
Right.
Now,
Terry also made a good point here. Cordage.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. And that's paracord. You can buy mill surplus paracord for just dirt cheap. A lighter or something to burn off the ends is great. Having a good knife. The rule: 1 is none, 2 is 1. And for me, it's 3 is just a good start. So I'm not going to have one knife. I'm going to have at least 3 workable blades, maybe different kinds, because any one of them could break or 2 of them could break.
Read the comments.
Yep. It can be used that way. Just be careful about cutting off circulation. Make sure you know how to work.
And something that starts off as fun might not be easy to explain at the hospital. Okay.
True.
Yes. There we go. So they have been a lively bunch in the comments, as they usually are for us, which is great.
So one thing I'd like to bring up leading into this. So we're kind of talking about prepping and knowing what your threat is. So is there likely going to be a big threat over the next week or 2 weeks with massive insurrection and rioting and horrible things with the power shift between Biden and Trump? I don't think so. I will honestly say I'm not going anywhere near downtown, because if there's protesters, I don't want to get jammed if they decide to shut the road down, and that's just me getting annoyed. But I don't think that there's such a small chance that any group would even think that they could attain power or disruption. Really, stay away from the target areas, and there's nothing to prep for. There's nothing to worry about. This isn't a time where we need to worry, and it's going to blow over. Like there's going to be a long tail to this. There's a lot of issues all of our countries have to deal with. We're seeing some of them flare up now, but I don't see that this is, I've heard people talk about civil war and outright fighting. I can't see it anytime soon, so I'm not worried about it. I'm not planning for it. I'm not doing anything different until situations change.
I'm going to ask a question after all these silly comments. Why do you think people don't take it seriously?
Prepping or zombies?
Well, we can start with zombies if you want. We could also read Randy's comment if you're open to that. But if not, we'll move on.
I, um, yeah. So yes, advanced, like the super level of prepper, night vision, super duper ultralight backpacks, all that stuff is great. The ultimate in backpacking. I think the problem is we have forgotten we have gotten soft.
How have
With
we
our
got
parents,
soft? Okay, slow down a bit here. Okay, how have we got soft?
it, before we had all of today's luxuries,
Yes.
a lot of people had farms. They did most of their repairs.
No.
They learned how to fix cars.
Yeah.
We don't have to. I I don't know how to change my oil. Well, so technically I do. I know there's something you unscrew, you
Hmm.
drain it, you put a new filter on, and you pour more oil in. Technically, if I looked at a manual, I could probably do it. But I can drive down the street and for $40 or $75 have someone do it for me while I play on my phone. I'm going to pay the money and get it done. So there's so many things we have forgotten how to do and how to survive. If I'm hungry, I don't have to go to the garden and grab something and turn it into a wonderful kale salad. I drive up to McDonald's and I have something that's going to shorten my lifespan instead. And I think that's why I can drive out or I can order something that I need, or I believe the government is going to provide it for me. So I'm not taking responsibility. And I think that's why a lot of people just say, I've got enough to worry about. I've got enough to spend my money on. It's not my problem. If something bad happens and bad enough, someone will take care of me. And I think that's what's leading to so many people not being prepared for even being able to pay for a $500 expense, not even keeping that much money in emergency
Right.
savings.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a cultural problem that's going to haunt us. We saw it at the beginning of COVID.
How many movies have we watched or TV shows where an old car, a very old car, was an asset?
Yes.
Right? Because it was easy to fix, it was simple. We have made everything in life so bloody complicated that the average person can't fix it or make it. Like I would have a rough time repairing a toaster, right?
Right. But I also, and it's the counter. The counter to that is we've also reduced a lot of the risks and threats that would cause us to have to worry about that. We still have weather. We a lot of people knew a pandemic was coming. We got one, but honestly, this was one of the easier ones we could have dealt with. If there's a great big huge disaster, not a lot of people could ever afford to be prepared for it anyway, so we can rule those out. I think a lot of it is we do have an advantage of having a real great society that and the highest standard of living in all time, and that comes with a downside that if that's taken away, it's going to be really hard to rebuild.
Yeah, I think we're having our own sort of war in the comments right here. But the now these types of subjects stir up emotions in people.
Yep.
Like you said, you brought up McDonald's, which was funny but very true. It made me think about simpler times when the average guy could change his oil, change his brakes. If you guys were super handy, in the 70s, all the muscle cars, guys could zoop them up and do stuff. Those days now are done. And the average
Yep.
mechanic has to be constantly taking schooling to keep up with all the new technology. It's crazy. And like our, broadcasts, they're always short and sweet
And informative.
and
Well,
informative.
right. So do I have a old car that is not electronic that I could repair? Nope. I have a Prius. I'm not going to run out of gas, and that darn thing has not, knock on wood, has never broken down. The
Yeah,
reliability of cars now is so high. I keep enough oil around that if
right.
I had a leak, I could do that. I've got duct tape,
Yeah,
good Gorilla tape in the car, things like that. So for me, needing to repair a car isn't part of my reality or my plan. Now,
right.
would I love to have an old junker 4-wheel drive car, yeah, or truck? That would
Truck,
be
yeah,
fun,
yeah.
but I I have a network. So if I needed a truck, my dad has a truck.
Yeah.
My friend has 2 trucks. Like, there's trucks available. Transportation isn't going to be our problem.
Can we talk about pulse weapons just for a second before we go? I know this is crazy. I'm going somewhere with this. So some of the
Yes.
movies I've watched, the only cars that ran didn't have electronic panels in them.
Yes.
You ever seen that? You know, those type of movies where they have to find something so old, pre-electronic, because they've
Yep.
somehow made sure that anything that was electronic is now fried.
Yes.
Is that possible? Is that a technology that will be available someday?
It exists today.
That's what I thought.
So basically, what you're talking about is an electromagnetic pulse, an EMP. They occur naturally, even in the center of hurricanes at a low degree.
Mhm.
Sun flares that mess with our satellites put them out, and a big solar flare could. Most of our satellites are hardened, meaning protected from it. So the big thought is, and also a nuclear weapon has a big EMP pulse. So if I take a small nuclear weapon and explode it a mile high, the EMP will fry most of our electronics. However, cars are a natural Faraday cage, meaning, and
Mhm.
Faraday was a scientist, it means the electricity is more likely to travel around the object, not through the object. So it's a natural insulator, and the tires are. So that pulse.
Are people calling you sir from all over the world saying don't give trade secrets? I
The
would love
Muslims
for you
on
to
my
read
side.
some of the comments if you can, if you don't
Yep.
mind, the ones that you can read that aren't ridiculous.
So yeah, so an EMP bomb, our military systems and some of the key systems have been hardened. We would lose power. Your laptop is probably going to get fried. Your cell phones. It depends on how strong it is. Cars are probably going to be fine. So that's a bit of a misnomer. And this information is coming. I actually host and help coordinate content for Dragon Con's Apocalypse Rising for survival panels.
Mhm.
And we have top scientists in
Mhm.
fields talk about these items. And we had an actual astrophysicist and a military expert talk about this. A lot of our devices will be okay.
Okay.
If this pulse was so strong that it would fry cars, it's
Mhm.
going to also melt electronics and other things like that. The effect would be catastrophic for many other reasons. So for the most part, it's not something that we need to worry about. But
Can you
if you
say
get
that conference one more time for those who are super geeked out may
yes,
not?
go ahead.
Okay, and you may want to put a link in there.
Yep.
I think sometimes when I have guests on here, especially like yourself, they think you're putting words together and there's these fantasy realms, kind of like my shows in the morning with the woo. They're like, this doesn't really mean anything, but it's nice, fluffy words connected together that make us feel good. But actually, when he talks, there is some real, true purpose, and these things do exist in 3D.
Yes.
Yeah. We, sir, are almost close to an hour. Do you want to keep going? How are you feeling? Do you need to get hydrated? Would you?
I feel good. I think we can definitely, for the sake of not only our guests here, but also people that are watching, sticking it under the hour time is always
Yeah.
respectful, but happy to, close out with some of the comments and a little bit of a wrap up. So to Travis's point, really, really old, like weather satellites, yeah, they're going to get toast, or the ones that are just going. All of our new satellites have been hardened for a long time, and the military as well. So they are where the EMP threat used to be a real concern, especially when you think of terrorists. It could be bad, but it's not nearly as dangerous as it used to be. We'll probably see more failures and danger from hacking on public utilities. That's probably going to cause more disruption than trying to come up with an EMP. Thanks, Helen. I appreciate it. I try and have fun with this too, or else we'd all be crying and shivering in the corner. So Got to take prepping and disasters with a little bit of humor.
I would love in the future when we get more comfortable, we'll get a couple people in near the end of the show at times. Helen
Yes.
is absolutely hilarious, as you've noticed through the comments, and even more engaging and fun with the how to explain it. She has a beautiful voice. We'll say that the way she projects her voice is very nice. So,
if you are interested, and I'm adding it to the comments right now, if I can spell the word attack correctly, there is a book called 1 Second After, and it takes place, I believe, in Tennessee
yes.
with a military history professor after an EMP attack or a series of EMP attacks take out the U.S. And it is probably the most accurate portrayal of what it would be like to be in a city or a small town after a catastrophic or somewhat apocalyptic event, and how the town has to survive and the decisions they make. I will say, if you are faint at heart or get easily scared, don't read it. It is a little terrifying because it is very, very blunt and very accurate about what would happen, from starvation to what happens if you have someone with type 1 diabetes and they can't get insulin, all the way to what happens if you have roving gangs that are going to attack your city. So it is a very powerful book. In the link I had earlier in the chat, I also have links to books, nonfiction and fiction, movies, stories that tie into this genre that are both entertaining and informative. So that would be a great place if you want to learn more about it. Start with that reading list.
How about addictions? And I'm being really serious because when I've watched Alone, okay, I don't know if you've ever seen the show. It is phenomenal. I love it. And what they do is they give you 10 items that you can pick, and you're usually in the middle of nowhere. You have no food. You have to basically find your own food. And a lot of the guys try to figure out painstakingly what they need, right? Because they need shelter, but they can only have 10 items.
Yep.
And the one thing you said over and over again, multi-use items.
Yes.
Right? But we don't talk about when they go on the show. Let's say they're a smoker. So then they're also going to get huge, crazy. If they're on their 50 days, let's say they make it for 50 days, they are now over their smokes. They're over their drinking if they're over drinking. They're over coffee. But the thing that they dream about most is donuts, cakes, pies. We never get into how addicted to sugar. Are someone being ridiculous, or is it just my crazy words?
So you're right on track. I was following COVID back in December because my mother-in-law was in Hong Kong. And every time there's an outbreak, we followed during SARS and actually evacuated her grandmother to the States until that was under control. So when we started seeing another coronavirus, we thought it would be contained, but I was on the phone almost every day with my mother-in-law trying to plan out when she was going to come home if she had to change her flight. And then when she decided she was going to get out before being locked down, we ended up having to reroute her many times to just get her out of Hong Kong and then find a way to get her back home. So I was actually well aware of what happened before our first cases showed up. When our first cases showed up, I was expecting a lockdown. If it spread fast, disruption to transportation and grocery stores. I looked at my plan. I looked at our inventory. We were pretty much had what we needed. So I made sure I had plenty of cold beer because I knew that would sell out. I bought a key lime pie.
Yes.
4 different types of cookies and a cake to get us through the first 2 weeks so we could treat the quarantine and lockdown like a party.
Yeah.
And to ease some of the stress and recovery. So when you said sugar addiction, the first thing I bought was cake and pie.
Well, you know what's wild? I've asked, because, on my normal scope, I asked people, who work at, say, Target or Costco or things like that, Sam's Club. I said, what kind of items they're selling? And they were saying barber kits was a big one for a while, but they were saying chips and pop and cookies. And I went,
Yes.
Nutrition 101. And I'm
Yes.
thinking, of all the things we have to buy, what do we need most? Chips. Yes. So, sir,
Yeah.
we have done 1 hour. Would you like
Perfect.
to wrap this? Would you like to wrap this up with anything besides chips, beer, cookies, zombies?
I would say just with everything, moderation, panic
Yes.
in moderation. As you read and start studying, the desire is to go out and start panic buying everything you can.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing the outcome of that. Make a plan, make a list, and do it slowly so that you're not
Yeah.
ruining your future by buying things that you may never need. And then just slowly keep adding to it over time. Figure those things that if we're on lockdown or on and off lockdown for the next 6 months, what are those things that you just don't want to have to go out for? And what are those things you want to be prepared for? And start with that
Mm-hmm.
list. There's a lot of great resources out there. I've got a number of them listed in the back of the handout from the zombie presentation. So feel free to grab that. If you need a special copy, message me and I'll do whatever I can to shoot it over or shoot you a
Yeah.
shorter version. So we will definitely have some more shows. I'm going to be starting up a series of topics through my channel, bringing Michael in because Michael is just the glue that holds everything together. So I love being able to be here with him. So please feel free to follow me here, also on YouTube, and I will be posting a lot more content and events through here and also on my website, ekmanguides.com. So really thank you for coming today. Michael?
Yeah. Here's the thing that we should always be aware of is this was made possible because of HAPS. And we've got people here from London. We've had people from Africa. We've had people from Saudi Arabia. We've had people from the Philippines. We've had every walk of life in this room seamlessly. And the great thing with HAPS, if you haven't signed up yet, is you can simultaneously have this on multiple platforms at the same time with great pro tools. And I know that in the future, once Hans gets his foot in the pond fully, he will have other great guests and there will be magnificent content for you to watch. And you know what? He is a great human being. And as you can see, he has an exquisite mind. And I feel very blessed to have you on here today, sir. And I hope there's more in the future. I really do. I hope that's for us. So do you want to say anything uplifting before we go?
Everyone be safe. Keep washing your hands and wearing your masks. It really does make a difference. And we've overcome worse things in history. This will be something that we will talk about, just like it's going to be our version of I walked 4 miles uphill both ways through snowstorms. I survived COVID and 2020 and killer bees and killer hornets. So just don't get lost in the echo chamber of how bad things are. Like Michael says, look for some of the good things, look for the happy things, seek out some good news and try and spread it around.
Yeah. And every morning, if you need a little pick me up and you're feeling a little depressed, you can see me at 6:30 to 7:30 every morning. Some mornings I don't feel like doing it, but I do it. And guess what? Somehow the right guests come in, the inspiration comes, and we all heighten the vibration together. God bless you all. And thank you. Thank you for being here. And listen, it might be just about balance. It might just be. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.